6 a.m. on a Wednesday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. The Yankees take a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Guardians with a 6-3 victory in New York. The series now shifts to Cleveland. The Mets and the Dodgers will have Game 3 coming up tonight. Meanwhile, in the NFL, Davante Adams is officially a Jet. I don't know if you could have noticed that from him joining Aaron Rodgers in media hits. He is now in the building in New York, and the Raiders have received a third-round pick that could become a second if conditions are met. Elsewhere, Amari Cooper was traded away from the Browns to the Bills as the Browns maybe signal what is coming this season. Coming up on the big show, we're going to catch up with Tyson Alger in hour number 3. We got Make or Miss in hour 2. Discussion on cheating, hour 1. You got Rip City Mornings on a Wednesday.
And a very happy Wednesday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. The voice you just heard, that is super producer Brendan. He's safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Wednesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. A bevy, I guess. A sprinkling. A group of trades happening in the NFL, one of which happened while we were on the air with Davante Adams finally getting his wish. He is out of Las Vegas. He is heading to New York. He gets to play with his old buddy in Aaron Rodgers. So we will dive into how much of an impact does this make, or are the Jets are they already broken? Because, people talking about this trade, I shouldn't say people. Some people on the internet, I would imagine either Aaron Rodgers super fans or Jets fans are acting like this is going to be the Band-Aid that is going to stop the bleeding, because I don't know if a lot of these people noticed they're 2-4. It's not like they're playing well. They've got a home loss to the Broncos, where Bo Nix, I believe, threw for 65 yards in that game. That's how bad the Jets have been this year.
Do they want to call up Oregon State? Because Oregon State just lost to a team that had a quarterback that threw for, I think, 50-some yards. Yeah, so that's not good.
I think the difference is that Nevada's quarterback ran for like 280-some yards.
Gotcha.
And I do not believe Bo Nix had an awful lot of rushing in that game.
Y'all listening, I know I didn't come in with any passive-aggressive comments yesterday, but you knew it had to come when you have that poor of a performance, and Brendan is on hand in person to see it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one they say, burn the tape. Coach, we had this in high school. It's I don't know who invented it. Somebody did, where kind of a symbolic way of moving forward, we're gonna burn the tape. And I'm sure probably Vince Lombardi did it back in the 60s or something. And let me tell you, I don't know how you would do it now. Again, this shows you how old I am, because I watched game film when I played high school football. We watched it on an actual VCR. DVDs did not exist back then. We watched it, let alone the digital way that they watch it now, where you just back and forth and back and forth. But I think every high school coach in the 90s heard about burning the tape, and they were like, "Yep, and of course, we lost to Reedsport. Had to burn the tape. Nothing to learn from that game. Got to move on. Got to get ready for the playoffs. We would then lose in the playoffs too, but neither here nor there. Don't need to recant the 1996 Douglas High School Trojans football season. I will if you'd like me to, but I'm not going to do it.
How was the flood that year? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, well, I was just curious, because that's the only thing that's associated with my year of birth, Justin.
Is it the 1996?
Pretty much.
The big giant floods that were going on?
Pretty much, yep. So I was curious if that impacted your sports playing schedule at all. That was the only reason I was curious.
I want to...
As random as that is. But
if I remember correctly.
But did you we can't go to Portland because it's underwater? I know it wasn't, but you know what I mean. It was under quite a bit of water.
Well, we didn't go to Portland all that often, because obviously we were 3 hours away. I don't know if it was the same flood, but there was during basketball season, one of my years in high school, there was a bunch of floods, but because I live in a I lived in a, what do you call it, rednecky type of place. It was like, we don't care, school's not canceled, get here, you can get here. And a bunch of people were like, yep, I ain't going to school. And it was a whole big thing because we had basketball practice, and technically you weren't allowed to practice if you didn't go to school. Because there were so many people absent. Like, my school was so small that, like, you could not, as an athlete, skip school because someone would notice. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure at your school or other big high schools, like, oh, let's skip class, let's skip school. There was no skipping school. Everyone knew if you were there and then left, and it's just that's how few people were there. Well, that day, that flooding day, there were so many people absent that, like, people were going in and out, in and out, in and out. And it was like, I believe they finally just threw up their hands like, fine, you guys can still go to basketball practice. But anyways.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We don't need to dive into that.
Small world.
It's a whole thing. But yeah, I would imagine for the Beavs, that was one you want to want to burn the tape. I'm sure the coach is like, maybe we should work on our gap discipline, and maybe we should work on dealing with running quarterbacks, because UNLV, they've got – isn't UNLV better with their new quarterback? I know they lost to Syracuse, but are they better with their new guy?
I mean, they've lost a game, so
yeah.
I mean,
they lost to Syracuse. I mean, that was
I mean, they were undefeated, so I can't say that they're better. That's categorically false.
All right,
but it'd be like, Justin, if Russell Wilson,
you can get better but still lose to a better opponent.
Well, it's just like if Russell Wilson comes in for you,
yeah, that's going to happen. It's happening. By the way,
you guys beat the Jets. Then you will not be able to. Someone will not be able to categorically say Justin Fields is better than Russell Wilson. You go, all right, well, Russell Wilson just beat the Jets, dude. So, I mean, I think you can play that game forever. Just there's still a reason he was the backup, right? He didn't win the job in camp,
gotcha.
So that
Well, here's what I wonder though. Let's talk about this because that's this Saturday, right?
Yes.
So, Beavs play UNLV this Saturday.
First night game. I'm not thrilled.
I wonder, because I hear exactly what you're saying, because for decades and decades and decades, you go into camp, one guy wins the job, the other guy becomes the backup. Generally, you go, all right, coach knows what he's doing, most often. Sometimes they don't. But in the new transfer portal world, because remember, this guy came in from, Holy Cross, I think? The guy at UNLV? I said, with the Bo Nix situation, and I also said the same thing with the DJ Uiagalelei situation in both Oregon and Oregon State the last couple of years. Those guys transferred in. Now, those guys are very different than some guy who's looking for $100,000 who's coming from Holy Cross. I realize it's a very different situation, but I said, you can sell me, Dan Lanning, all you want about how this is going to be an open competition. Bo Nix came here as the starter. That deal was made. The deal was made. It happens in the NBA all the time, right? Guys make a deal. They sign extensions. Anthony Simons signed the extension with the Blazers with the understanding that he would be the starting two guard with Dame in the backcourt. Now, obviously, everything kind of fell apart after that, but that's why he did it. Players do it all the time, which is why I believe the Steelers, I think, have to give Russell Wilson a chance. One, because Justin Fields, even though they're 4-2, he's throwing for $160 a game and no touchdowns. And he
can't throw right now. And you also got a George Pickens problem y'all got to figure out.
Yeah.
That's getting a little loud. I'll say that. When people who are not in Pittsburgh are hearing the noise from that, it's kind of interesting.
It's one of those, it goes back to kind of what you were saying. It's like you categorically can't say that. It's like, but I watch the games. You know what I mean? Like, okay, they are winning. I get it. They're 4-2. But I watch these games. I watch all of them. I don't know if they're good. I know their defense is good. And other than, what was the game where the defense got torched? Can't even remember now. I know that the defense is good. The Colts. They got torched by the Colts and Joe Flacco. Like, I know the defense is good, but my eyes are seeing Justin Fields ain't it. Like, so you got to give Russell the chance anyways. So I just wonder, in college football, with all these quarterbacks moving around, and maybe UNLV is smaller potatoes, even if he was beaten out, I wonder if there was a deal to be made of like, yeah, if you transfer in, you'll be the starting quarterback. I think that might switch up some things. But either way, that guy's gone. Remember when he took over? Remember when UNLV was the talk of college football for like a whole week? Remember when that happened? That's different now because the talk of college football is Dan Lanning a genius? Is Dan Lanning a cheater? Is Dan Lanning the luckiest SOB alive? Because I've heard all three theories on the 12 men on the field. I've heard Dan Lanning is playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers. He is a football super genius. He is seeing all the angles, and Ryan Day, he's a big dumb doofus over there that didn't see all the angles. So there's that theory. There is the theory that Dan Lanning is a cheater and that they cheated Ohio State out of a legitimate play. I don't agree with it, but it's an interesting theory. And then there is the other theory. No, I said theory. Phone, not Siri. Siri popped up on my phone. The other theory, coming from my Washington Husky friends, that is, I don't think Dan Lanning did that on purpose. I don't think Dan Lanning intentionally put 12 guys out there on the field. That was a happy accident, and that he might have just fallen, much like, do we know if Dan Lanning was ever offered the Alabama job? We don't. But you know what? Used it to his advantage. He made everybody believe he did. Did he intend to put the 12th guy out there? If he didn't, well, when everybody keeps calling you a genius, don't interrupt him. Hey, Dan, I think you're a genius. Go on, finish your thought. So I've heard those three theories. Myself, I don't think it was cheating. I don't know if it makes Dan Lanning a genius.